Tonight on Joy News Prime, President Akufo-Addo defends his anti-corruption record, insisting Auditor General Daniel Domelevu was not forced out of office.
And I say so with great respect to him, of forcing out. Well, he was not forced out of government. He left office by the operation of.
National Security arrests a 13-member gang involved in the printing and distribution of fake currency notes to unsuspecting victims, mostly foreign nationals. We have details plus an expert's perspective on dealing with such crimes. Also in this bulletin, as the world marks World Press Freedom Day, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres asked governments around the world, including Ghana, to ensure an independent and diverse media free from harassment. We'll hear from United Nations Secretary as the world marks World Press Freedom Day.
Countries, they run great personal risks, including new restrictions, censorship, abuse, harassment, detention, and even death, simply for doing their jobs.
Later in this bulletin, major parts of the northern regional capital, Tamale, without electricity for close to 24 hours. We'll hear from NETCO shortly and some updates from our correspondents. Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Remember, this is your home of independent, fearless, credible and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for sticking with us. The National Security has busted a 13-member gang involved in the printing and distribution of fake currency notes to unsuspecting victims, mostly foreign nationals. A statement issued by the National Security Secretariat said the gang, led by one Yasseh Alia, a 45-year-old Syrian resident in East Legon and an owner of Hartford Auto Service in Accra, were rounded up in a warehouse within the premises of NAC Charter Cargo and Freight Company near KLM offices within the Kotoka International Airport. Freshly printed $10,000 bundles of fake $100 notes concealed in two large metal trunks and a suitcase were retrieved from the warehouse. My colleague Latif Idris joins me with more on this one. Latif, does a statement explain the modus operandi of this gang?
It does, Aisha, and I would like to read portions of the statement as issued by National Security. So it says that the group's modus operandi, according to intelligence gathered so far by National Security operatives, suggests that these individuals lure unsuspecting victims with claims that they have access to millions of US dollars in Libya. Now, Aisha, they don't just make these claims. They back it by actions for you to believe that what they are selling to you is indeed genuine. So what do? Victims are given genuine US dollars cash. So they give you $100 bills to go and spend on the market.
Okay.
These are genuine currencies. So you go out there, you spend it, and then you believe in what they are selling to you.
Okay.
So that takes you to the next steps.
Okay.
So to spend for free as proof of the genuineness of the deal. Once convinced, victims are requested to deposit huge sums of US dollars as freight charges to aid the shipments of the said dollars to the victims. Upon receipt of these amounts, so they do this to a number of people. They give you, say, $100, $200, go and spend, so that you believe that indeed what they are selling to you is genuine. Now, once they get you to buy into that, they ask you to pay an amount of money to help them bring into Ghana the loads of US dollars they have back in Libya. And
that's when you now get the fake ones.
Now, once you suspect or victims make the payment, upon receipt of the amount, the suspects are given package of fake dollars stashes. Now, when you go onto the market to spend, then the law catches up with you.
So what assurances are we getting from the quarters of the National Security?
So officials of National Security have assured Ghanaians that government was determined to rid the country of fake currency syndicates and warned that persons involved in the illegality would be arrested and dealt with according to the laws of the country. Now, Aisha, we know that these are not just Ghanaians. they are doing this with foreigners. We know some Syrians are involved, some Ghanaians are involved, and ladies and gentlemen, I mean, males, females, all of them come
involved
together to form
this kind of syndicate
that are printing fake US currencies here on our soil.
That's quite a serious matter. Let's get deeper into this matter, and let's speak with Professor Kwesi Enin, who is a security analyst and director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Prof, thanks so much for your time. At a time when the country is seriously dealing with the rising rates of crime and the infiltration of foreigners, the latest we are seeing is this syndicate. How do we deal with this matter as we also strive to maintain diplomacy? Hello, Prof. Enin.
Yes.
Hello, Prof. Enin.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you now, loud and clear.
Yes. Hello. Yes, good. Diplomacy ends where organized crime and criminal networks undertake activities and actions that threatens the reputation, the dignity, the development, the security of another state. So irrespective of the numbers who are involved in this particular crime and where they come from, similar to those involved in other criminal activities like Galamsey, it is the operating domestic law that should be made to work. And if the law says they should go in for 20 years, 40 years, 50 years, that is the law that should be applied. That is one. Two relates to the sheer volumes of money that we are talking about. First, we are talking about genuine US dollars co-mingling with fake US dollars. What these guys do when these people who are greedy themselves get caught in this is that they receive the genuine dollars, which they then put into our financial system, and then it becomes even much more cleaner. There are a couple of things that arises from here. One is that these deposits, when they are then retrieved, we are not sure where they send it. So we need to look at their bank transactions, their phone records, their networks, because what they are doing relates to two serious potential dangers to Ghana. One is money laundering. The second is possible terrorist financing. So I think it's important for the Bank of Ghana, Yoko, the national security guys, to really take their time, dismantle their phones, their laptops, and begin to use network analysis to get to wherever their friends are. The other point in the statement was this character who came masquerading and telling people, do you know who I am? And I am coming from this office and I am going to call. That reflects a larger problem in our society. The usage of important people's names and their offices to commit crimes and to intimidate law enforcement officers from doing what is right. That particular case must be treated separately, precisely because it seeks to bring the government into disrepute. And that is something that we need to calm down on.
I'm grateful for your time, Professor Kwesi Enin. He is the director of Academic Affairs at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. President Akufo-Addo has defended his anti-corruption record, insisting Auditor General Daniel Domelevo was not forced out of office. Mr. Domelevo was first asked to proceed on accumulated leave. He was then asked to retire shortly after his return from his leave. In an interview on US-based news network CNN, President Akufo-Addo said the Auditor General was not targeted. He said he is satisfied with his government's fight against corruption so far.
The word pride is not the word I would use. I mean, am I satisfied that we've been effective? And I would say that yes, a lot has been done, and it's reflected in Ghana's growing position on rankings on corruption in the world. We've gone up several notches since I came into office because we're dealing with these matters at a basic level. For instance, the institutions that are there, the anti-corruption institutions of our country, when I came into office, were very poorly resourced. You can talk all you like about corruption and inveigle and make all the wonderful statements, but if the instruments at your disposal for dealing with it are weak and blunt, you will get no results.
President Addo, some people are upset that the Auditor General was forced out of a job, and one of his important mandates was rooting out corruption.
There are laws in our country, and the Auditor General, like me, we should be some of the first to recognize the laws in our country. There's a time for retiring, which is prescribed by statute. They're not mind-making. If you're 60 years old, you're supposed no longer to be able to work in the public service. The Auditor General came to 60 years old and had to retire. So the expression, and I say so with great respect to him, that of forcing out, well, he was not forced out of government. He left office by the operation of law.
You heard the President Akufo-Addo speaking on CNN. Now, government is being urged to ensure an independent and diverse media free from harassment. Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, says in addition to the financial challenges facing the media arising from the COVID-19 pandemic, issues of abuse still persist. The issue has been topical here in Ghana in the last few weeks following a speech by statesman Sam Jonah on whether there was a return to dreaded culture of silence. The world is today marking World Press Freedom Day. There is more in the following report.
In April 2018, the Media Foundation for West Africa listed 17 instances where journalists were attacked within 15 months in Ghana. It includes the attack on Joy News journalist Latif Idris, who was brutally beaten while on assignment at the police headquarters.
One officer who was standing in front of one of the crowd control vehicles.
That was inside the compound?
Outside.
Outside.
In front of the main gate. I asked him if they have any special name for the crowd control vehicle. Then, in a very rude manner, he said in a can that I should get off. Free me so nkwasiasem anaju na baby same ka in a can. I got embarrassed, so I turned and I was walking away and I said, "Oh Charlie." Oh Charlie, the "oh Charlie" I said was my offense. He held my shirt, pulled me back, and slapped me in the face. He came and held me again. "Who are you? I'm talking to you," and I'm telling me, "Oh, Charlie." And then pushed me to a crowd of police officers who had gathered in front of them.
How many of these police officers?
There were a lot of them. There were lots.
Can you put a number to them?
For those gathered in front of the headquarters, there were more than 20. So he pushed me into them. They didn't know what was going on between the two of us. But I don't know, they all started beating me, slapping me here and there. So I shouted and called him, "Joel." Joel, he came and I asked him to start filming. He raised his camera and he started doing something. Some of them also pounced on him.
Other incidents captured include an attack on a freelance journalist, Kendrick Ofe, by soldiers in March 2017 during Ghana's 60th independence celebration. 2 journalists, including an editor working with Modern Ghana, were arrested and interrogated by national security operatives in July 2019. Lawyer for the Modern Ghana journalist Samson Ladi Anyenini was unhappy.
Our generation must stand up to be counted, that the processes of the court and the powers of the state will not be used by certain individuals for their own parochial personal interest. You have a complaint about a publication, they put up an article. You call them, ask them to pull it down. They pulled it down. You are now looking for something to stick and say they have committed cybercrime.
Ghana currently ranks number 30 in the World Press Freedom Index. In 2016, the nation ranked 26th. Media watchers say the current position of the nation is as a result of the attacks on journalists, many of which remain unresolved. A key case often referred to is the gruesome murder of investigator Ahmed Hussein Swale, who worked closely with investigative journalist Anas Arim Yanas.
Ahmed was rushing, so he used the car to enter that kiosk, that saloon over there. So he used the car to enter, and then the man went there again and gave him the last shot. So make it three gunshots. He followed him into the shot and gave him 3 gunshots. Ahmed was inside the car.
Statesman Sam Jonah has been asking questions about whether the nation is returning to the dreaded days when freedom of speech was a rare commodity, the culture of silence.
Men and women of conscience who write and speak words that penetrated the halls of power. It appears to me that in recent times, in our fourth Republican dispensation, the courage to stand up for the truth and the determination to uphold the common good seems to be missing. Now, at that moment, it is concerning that the voices of the intellectuals are receding into oblivion. Sadly, it is a consequence of deep partisan polarization of our country, said that everything is seen through the lenses of politics.
We'll hear from Antonio Gutierrez shortly, but first, let's speak with Suleiman Brima, who is Executive Director for Media Foundation for West Africa. Grateful for your time, Mr. Brima. Today, we are supposed to be celebrating media freedom, but you and I know that with the brutalities of media personnel and media houses, we certainly can't boast of media freedom in Ghana. But more importantly is the protection for journalists. The case of Ahmed Swale, for instance, makes it difficult for any journalist to feel protected in this country. What do you prefer as a solution to our current situation?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think that we have to continue the fight, we have to continue the advocacy, and we have to continue to speak truth to power. When journalism dies, democracy dies. And so we can't have a situation where leadership of the country says, well, we are champions of democracy, we are apostles of democracy, and yet when it comes to media freedom, they speak and act differently. I think that people would say, well, situations in other countries are quite, dire than what we have in our country. But I don't think that we always have to compare ourselves with the West. We have to look up to the best. And I don't think that what we have currently is the best. Yes, there is no country where you would say in a year there has been 0 incidents of violations against journalists. What is critical is what authorities do in response to the violations that occur. And I think that in a particular case, it is not only the number of incidents which is quite alarming. That is not the only thing that is worrying. I think the other thing that is much more even worrying is the fact that when these crimes are committed against journalists, we don't see any action, we don't see any commitment, and we don't see any seriousness on the part of the authorities that are supposed to ensure that justice is done and impunity for crimes against journalists is dealt with.
Now, the theme for this year's celebration, information as a public good, it reignites the conversation about availability of information to aid journalists. One would have thought that with the passage of the RTI law, this would have been settled, but I'm not sure we have surmounted this obstacle yet, Mr. Brima.
Well, it is true. The passage of the Right to Information Bill or law certainly is one of the great things that this government has done, considering the fact that this is a piece of legislation that has been in the works for almost 20 years. And so we certainly have to commend the Akufo-Addo government for passing the Right to Information law. Yet, in terms of implementation, we are not seeing the structures that ought to have been put in place by now. Of course, the commission has been set up. The law or the act says that there would be an ally. As we speak, we haven't seen that. The practical experience from the field indicates that a lot of state institutions that are supposed to comply with the law so far are failing to do so. As you may know, we are in court at the moment against the National Communications Authority in relation to their decision to charge a certain amount before releasing information that has been requested. But having said that, I think we as journalists and as people in the industry also have a responsibility to assert that right and to prove to the citizenry that we are doing the best that we can in terms of professionalism and in terms of utilizing that particular piece of legislation that should enable us to do our work and do it better. I think so far we haven't seen that evidence of journalists trying to use the right to information law as much as possible to gather information, to do their work in terms of the watchdog role, and making sure that the authorities are accountable to the citizenry as required by our Constitution.
This is something we hope will happen in the nearest possible time. Thank you so much. Suleimana Brahima is Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Let's now listen to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who says press men can only contribute information for public if they are free from harassment.
Global challenges we have faced during the COVID-19 pandemic underline the critical role of reliable, verified, and universally accessible information in saving lives and building strong, resilient societies. During the pandemic and in other crises, including the climate emergency, journalists and media workers help us navigate a fast-changing and often overwhelming landscape of information, while addressing dangerous inaccuracies and falsehoods. In too many countries, they run great personal risk, including new restrictions, censorship, abuse, harassment, detention, and even death, simply for doing their jobs. And the situation continues to worsen. The economic impact of the pandemic has hit many media outlets hard, threatening their very survival. As budget tightens, so too does access to reliable information. Rumors, falsehoods, and extreme or divisive opinions surge in to fill the gap. I urge all governments to do everything in their power to support a free, independent, and diverse media. Free and independent journalism is our greatest ally in combating misinformation and disinformation. The United Nations Plan of Action on the Safety of Journalists aims to create a safe environment for media workers across the globe because information is a public good. Today, we commemorate the 30th anniversary of the Windhoek Declaration for the Development of a Free, Independent and Pluralistic African Press. Despite dramatic changes in the media over the past 3 decades, the Declaration's urgent call for press freedom and free access to information is as relevant as ever. Let's reflect on its message and renew our efforts to protect media freedom so that information remains a life-saving public good for all.
You heard the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Korte is vowing not to relent on his efforts until all buildings on waterways are demolished. As the rainy season sets in, the minister is teaming up with the various district assemblies to raise down all such facilities to prevent the recurrence of flood in the capital. On Monday, the minister led a team from the Tema West Municipal Assembly to demolish a 3-bedroom house in Lashibi plus a washing bay. My colleague Kwekwa Sante has more.
Shaibu Kabore is assemblyman for the Lashibi electoral area. He watches on as his 3-bedroom house, which he says cost him hundreds of thousands of cedis, is raised down by the Tema West Municipal Assembly. To prevent the recurrence of flooding in the region, Regional Minister Henry Korte is teaming up with district assemblies across the region to demolish houses and facilities constructed in waterways. A washing bay and this 3-bedroom house is now gone, but owner and assemblyman of the electoral area, Shaibu Kabore, says he accepts that he did wrong by putting up the facility in a waterway.
So it's one of the errors we do, and I accept that it is a wrong thing we have done, and then I will use this as a leader. I'm using this as an example to others, to serve as a deterrent to others. Let us not take the law into our own hands, especially the local leaders, the opinion leaders. When you are in your locality, don't think you are above the law. Leadership by example, let's live by it, and then make sure we do the right thing. So I try to let it go, and then as you are witnessing it is gone. So that tomorrow the town will not be flooded, and then we will lose life, and later assembly member who is the local leader of the area will be accused for blocking the water, and then disaster happens. So I think it is better we let some of these things go.
But the Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Korte is warning that more of such demolitions will happen across the capital.
I'm saying that some people said, oh, to me, yeah. Well, the train has taken off. So long as you remain a passenger, when we get to your place, the train will stop and it will pick you. It will pick you. So, well, it's your choice. If you choose to build on a waterway, when we get there, the train will stop. And you can be rest assured that it will not leave without picking the passenger. So this is just to serve as a deterrent to all. That when we get there, we will indeed get there. And we will do what we have to do. But in the same vein, let me use the opportunity to commend the Assembly member for demonstrating high leadership qualities.
Accra Regional Minister Henry Korte says his outfit is waiting for a report from the police on the Christ Embassy Youth Church program that drew public criticism for violating COVID-19 preventive protocols.
The police service has issued a statement, and let us be guided by that. As the chairman of RESEC, we are waiting for, investigations are ongoing, and we are waiting for the report to get to us, and at appropriate time we'll speak to. In the meantime, today the police are along the beaches to ensure that there is strict compliance to the COVID safety protocol. But as I said, investigations are on its way, and surely a report will come to the RCC, and then we'll act on it.
So to come in this bulletin, major parts of the northern regional capital, Tamale, are without electricity for close to 24 hours. There is more when we return from this break.
Hello there, welcome to Business. Expect to pay more for the prices of goods and services that attract VAT and the 1% COVID-19 health recovery levy this week. Of course, as you know, you feel the budget. The full budget is expected to go up as well following the application of some levies on these products. There is more in this report.
Hike in prices is due to changes in the VAT rate and other levies that make up the total taxes that will be paid by the consumer. This means the final tax to be paid on each good by consumers will be 19.5%. That's if you add the VAT rate, National Health Insurance Levy, Get Fund Levy, and COVID-19 Health Sector Recovery Levy, while the effective flat rate is expected to be 4.03%. Now, VAT is a consumption tax, so anytime that a good is bought from the production chain to consumption, VAT will be paid. Applying these new levies on any commodity or service will result in prices going up. For instance, Joy Business checks with some hotels show that they will be reviewing their prices for their menus. Also, transport fares are expected to go up, looking at the rate of increase that have seen over the past 3 months. This will make it difficult for Transport Ministry to convince the various transport unions not to increase their fares this month. But looking at how the economy is structured, increasing fares could also complicate matters and lead to hikes in cost of production for businesses and individuals. On the back of COVID-19, some businesses are worried it could worsen their plight.
Now, telecoms operator MTN has indicated that the application of the COVID-19 health recovery levy will affect all services offered to subscribers. MTN in a press release noted that apart from data and call tariffs, all services on the platform will also be amended. And as you could see on your screens, excerpts of the statement that they've issued out to the general public, the fact that fiber to home, third-party apps, and mobile money transactions and the international roaming charges will all be affected under this new regime of levy introductions. And this was signed by its chief, that's the Samuel Cranton, the corporate services executive of MTN Ghana. Yeah. And that's how we end business for this segment. Sport is up next. Do stay.
Thank you for staying with us. I'm Gary Al Smith with the sports. We are still giving the reaction and the fallout from this weekend's action involving the Ghana athletics team. The Ghana relay team was disqualified in the final of the World Relays Championships for a lane infringement. Now, the team finished third behind Brazil and South Africa with a time of 31.11 seconds. But minutes after the race and time confirmations, Brazil and Ghana were disqualified. Benjamin Azamati, whose changeover led to the disqualification, says they had only a day to practice and he has therefore called for more support.
Hesitation on the second and then the third leg, which I think the takeoff was very early, but we can't blame anyone because I think we just had a day to change or to practice. So I feel like if we had more days to practice and all that, all these things wouldn't have happened. So I think there's no one actually to be blamed, but we didn't have days to practice before going into the race. We are actually the only country that really didn't go into camp prior to this competition. So it's actually nobody's fault, but maybe we should plan better and then come into it.
It just goes to show that with the right support and the right team, like together, we can definitely achieve well and go for gold medals. Like, we're a team to be reckoned with. Like, we're in the ball, we're in the mix. It goes to show you with correct preparation that we can definitely push forward to getting a gold medal.
Absolutely. I think we have a very, very good squad, and like Sean said, the right support and then the right planning and everything. I've been looking at our times, not to blow our own trumpet or something, but we have really, really fast 200 times and really, really fast 100 times, faster than the team that actually have the record. There's no reason why we shouldn't have the record this year.
Despite the disqualification, the good news is that Ghana has qualified already for the Olympic Games, and so the team will be there. They've also qualified for next year's World Athletics Championships. Moving on, in the past week, the conversation within the Ghanaian sporting space has been about the sports ministry's steps to solicit corporate support to fund the development of sports in the country. Much of it has been centered around the Black Stars' preparation and participation eventually in the 2022 AFCON and the FIFA World Cup, both to be held in Cameroon and Qatar respectively. Well, Mustafa Usif says the focus is not only on football, but the development of the entire sports ecosystem.
It should not be surprised that His Excellency the President has prioritized this meeting among his busy schedule in the interest of sports, because he's not only the #1 gentleman of the country, but he is the #1 sports enthusiast. Sports financing in Ghana is one of the major concerns the Ministry of Youth and Sports has worked around the clock over the past 4 years, and this has resulted in the submission of proposal to Cabinet for approval to establish a dedicated sports fund to bridge the gap in sports funding. All over the world, the development of sports have played a very instrumental role in promoting multiple sectors, such as manufacturing, retailing, media, sports tourism, the hospitality industry, and national cohesion. A critical factor in the development of sports is the availability of adequate funding, which aids development of sports facilities, provision of training equipment, as well as granting scholarship and incentives to athletes. This underscores the need for today's event, which is to solicit your support to complement government effort in sports funding. Mr. President, in spite of the appreciable increase in sports sector's budgetary allocation the last 4 years, there is still the need for alternative funding to guarantee sustainable development in our sports in the country.
You are speaking at one of 2 meetings that have been held between the presidency and corporate Ghana in order to solicit financial support for the various sporting disciplines. That's it for the sport. I'm Gary Alsman. Thank you for your time.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime to the rest of our stories. And major parts of the northern regional capital Tamale are without electricity for close to 24 hours. Power supply was cut to areas including Lamashegu and UDS Zugbo campus and industrial area over the weekend. It is still unclear what caused the outage. Correspondent Martina Bugiri reports this has been the longest hours residents have been without power. Power supply in the northern region has been as erratic for weeks now. Let's get an understanding of the situation now with Maxwell Kutuka, who is Corporate Communications Manager at NEDCO, who joins via Zoom. Good evening to you. I'm grateful for your time, Mr. Kutuka. Hello, Maxwell, if you can hear me. Now, for many residents, the situation over the weekend is enough reason to release a timetable. Will they get it?
The line is a little faint, but if I get you as faint as it sounds, you want to know what caused the outages in Tamale over the weekend. Is that the case?
Definitely so, and also whether residents will be getting a timetable as soon as possible.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity. There was a myriad of issues over the past few days that have all connived into making power delivery from us rather terrible over the weekend. One, Gridco lost an equipment at the main bulk supply point, and so they were not able to deliver power to us through the 330 kV substation. As a result of which we had to revert to an older system which itself was strained, which necessitated our moving to the bigger BSP. And so what it meant was that we were moving from a 330 kV substation to a downgraded one of 161 kV substation. Indeed, we had to move from the 161 kV to the 330 kV, partly because it was getting strained. And over time, the load has grown. So we are coming back to that earlier one that was trained at a lower load with a bigger load. And that in itself is a whole conundrum. That aside, NEDCO also lost some major underground cables, which also culminated in the event. Then, as if these two were not enough, just yesterday there was a heavy storm in town. There had been one 3 days earlier. It came with its own difficulties, lines down here and there. And so the network has really been battered. Now, to the second part of the question, whether residents should be looking forward to a load shedding
timetable
or schedule. The answer is yes and no. Yes, because, like I've explained, these are three different issues that have all merged at one point, giving us challenges. And so we ourselves are having to observe the situation closely while we work to rectify the anomalies. It is our expectation that the localized problems by tomorrow should be over. The underground cable is being worked on. We have detected the faults and we are working on them as well. Our brothers at Gridco have assured us that they will replace the equipment in course of the week. And so if all work well and we are able to get a firm grab over the issues, chances are that we may not necessarily get to that point. However, in the event that we are not able to overcome these in the next few hours, then chances are that, but by then we would also have understood the situation and known how much load we need to take off at what time that will not cause too much convenience, then we can get to a schedule. And so that explains the yes and no answer.
I'm grateful for your time. So as it stands now, we do not know when power will be restored and when we're going to get a timetable for the people in the north, correct?
We cannot put a finger definitely on it and say at 6 p.m. no, power is to be restored. However, what we can give by way of assurance, and the fullest assurance possible, is that we are working assiduously to ensure that we restore normalcy as soon as it's practicable.
Maxwell Kotoka is Corporate Communications Manager of NETCO. Martina Bugri joins me from the northern region with an update of the situation. Martina, what's the situation there as we speak right now?
Some areas are beginning to have their lights restored. I just came to town, Kalpohini, Kobulumabu, Net, Waterton, and then Taha. These areas they didn't have lights since yesterday in the night, and their lights have just come back. And some other areas too in town center have had their lights restored. And so bit by bit, they are working on it. I've seen them through this night on the street, working on the poles that had fallen earlier this morning. And so they are working on some of these things.
Martina Bugri is our correspondent in the North. We're still live on Joy News Prime. We'll bring you more. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com and you will find interesting headlines, including security busting fake currency gang involved in over $5 million scheme at the airport. There is more over there, updates on all the developing stories when you log on to My Joy Online. The news continues on Joy News. The paramount chief of Wungo, Nazuri Saka Suleimana in the West Mamprusi municipality of the Northeast region, has authorized a manhunt for a group of armed residents who attacked and killed a bull elephant. The chief has been angered by the refusal of the residents to heed to his warning not to harm the animal after its presence in the area was brought to his attention. The chief has therefore ordered the residents to stay away from the carcass as attempts are being made to report the incident to Health and Forestry Services in Wale Wale. Correspondent Elias Otanko reports.
The animal was killed Friday afternoon near a small stream outside the villages of Palio and Misu, about 15 minutes ride from the Wungu town. It was still not clear how the elephant was murdered, as none of the locals at the scene was willing to speak to us. However, it was gathered that the animal was cornered by not less than 20 armed men who fired from different directions as it attempted to flee a small burnt forest in the area. At the scene, the animal was slaughtered and its head, including the ivory, taken away by the killers. The rest of the body was severely riddled with bullets. The assemblyman for Wungu, Alasa Nasiru, who spoke on behalf of the paramount chief, said the chief is furious over the matter because the residents chose to disregard his warning against the killing of the animal.
It was yesterday in the morning around 8:30 thereabout. We was in the palace when we hear that there is an elephant crossing Yama Road. So they called Nanzoa to inform chief, the paramount chief of Wungu. So he told them they shouldn't touch it, they should leave it alone. So by a few minutes time, we hear that it is in Mishu. So they recall again and he said nobody should touch it, they should leave it alone. So wherever it is, it will go back to where it is. You don't allow anybody to do anything to it. So later on, around 3 thereabout, we hear that they have a group of people came and shot and buried. So, and the paramount chief of Wungu traditional area give authority that they shouldn't touch it, nobody should touch it. Once he said they shouldn't kill it and they refused and done that, they should leave it alone. I think that is why it's lying down since yesterday till this time.
The assemblyman also said the chief has ordered a search for those behind the killing.
At first of all, he was looking for those who have killed it. He didn't get. So because of that, they should leave it alone. We didn't even see a person who said they are the group of people who killed it. Because according to them, yesterday when you come here, the time they were here, the guns that was shooting is about 20 or more. So they didn't even actually know who killed it. And they don't want to even tell actually who did that.
He said attempts were being made by the paramount chief to contact health and the forestry services in Wale Wale to report the matter.
Because according to him, once it is like this, we cannot leave it alone. We have to give the forest people, notice to also come and observe it. But fortunately, when this Saturday, when we got to the office, nobody is there.
The scene of the incident was literally a tourist attraction, as dozens of the locals from far and near thronged the place to have a look at the killed mama. While many came with the intention to get a share of the meat, others came just to watch and take pictures on their mobile phones. The assemblyman, however, had this message for the crowd gathered at the scene. All those who are not supposed to be here are to leave immediately. You have been asked already not to come here. After this announcement, anyone who refuses to leave should have themselves to blame for any ramifications that might come upon them. Some of the residents spoke to Joy News.
We all hear that elephants have been shot and dead at Palu. Here we call it Palu. So all of us were here to witness and to see it. Some of us have never even seen elephant before. So in fact, when we hear that, it was very amazing to everybody. So we're all here to see how elephants look like.
And we have never seen elephant before, so we are here to see it. Ilyasu Tanko reporting.
Though some district assemblies in the Upper West region have put in place stringent measures coupled with government's ban on the cutting and transporting of rosewood, the practice is still ongoing in some parts of the region. The felling of rosewood and its transportation was at its zenith in 2012, forcing the government to place a ban on its salvaging, cutting and transportation. Joy News' Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports the rare species, which takes about 100 years to grow, are being cut in a split second by pieces of unscrupulous persons and secretly transported out of the region for export.
According to the Environmental Investigation Agency report, about 6 million rosewood trees have been cut down in Ghana for illegal export to China since 2012. Despite government's ban and further tightening other loopholes on the illegal trade and felling of the endangered species, the practice still goes on. The personalities fingered in the act are corrupt government officials and local authorities. Member of Parliament for the West constituency, Superintendent retired Peter Lanchine-Tubu, whose constituency he claimed the practice is on the rise, is deeply worried to the marrow.
I got into the forest, I saw beautiful trees that were cut down, and I just began to see a desert that is moving faster downward than ever before. And I'm asking, if this is what we are going to leave for future generations, then we should be doing harm to the future than our grandfathers have done for us. The level of detection will tell you the level of spread. But until you see it, you may think that it's at a particular level, but it may be more than that or less than that. My interest is the fact that this is an illegality and it must stop.
The West District Assembly in 2018 arrested these rosewoods that were illegal cut in some communities in the district and dumped at the Wuchao police station. West District Chief Executive Edward Labido Sabo agreed hook, line and sinker with Superintendent Peter Lanchine-Tubu on the illegal practice. However, he said it is difficult to fight it because the people are not ready to devote information to enable the security arrest the perpetrators.
So I deployed the police and the military people to the scene. When they got there, they were not able to see anybody. They found out from the communities, they were not willing to show them the area that the people are actually doing the operations. They search around that area, they patrolled there about 2-3 days, they haven't heard anything. So the operation they are doing there, it is that they have stopped. They have run away. Even as a now, to identify the spot, those people that have been able to know the place, when you ask them to lead you there, they don't always want to go. They will only be sending information across, but when you contact the person that where is actually that area, it becomes a challenge.
Since the practice was done on the quiet and on the blind side of most of the people, the team therefore went on the prowl, driving from one district to the other, looking for communities where this illegal felon of the rosewood is taking place. Assemblyman for Kajipere North, Janity Morris, gave me an insight about how they were arrested.
When they come, they are foreigners. The communities they get to, they don't even know the communities. What they do is they engage indigents, give them subcontracts. They cut these rosewood, then they go to them and buy, carry them away. So what we've done for now is, last year, we started it last year. Then this year, what we are currently doing is, we will be able to talk to some of the people that are supporting these foreigners to do the cutting down of the trees.
This rare species takes about 100 years for it to fully grow. But for persons who have unscrupulous minds or evil intentions, it takes them a split of a second for them to cut them into pieces like this. The rosewood are then cutted out of the Upper West region, taken to the Far East, preferable to China, where they are used to make imperial furniture. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam, Kajiperi.
I'm back here in Accra in the studio. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Despite various road safety campaigns in an attempt to reduce motorcycle and vehicular accidents on our roads, the menace continues on a daily basis with varying degrees of injuries and effects on victims and families. We bring you a sad story of a 22-year-old mobile money vendor at Dodipapase in the Kejebi district of the Oti region. Prince, the victim, is currently paralyzed from his waist to feet after a motorbike he was riding on had front tire burst and somersaulted. Prince is on admission at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital but is unable to do anything for himself except the daily help from the mother. He requires emergency surgery to correct the defect, which would cost him over 40,000 Ghana cedis. Peter Seno has more.
December 2020, when Joy News visited the Dodipapase community to speak to residents about their expectations going into the December 2020 elections, Prince was one of those who volunteered to speak. He said, among other things, that
we are in the village now and nothing is going on better. As you can see, we have completed the set about 4 or 5 years now. We are still in the house.
So what are you doing?
Now I'm just a vendor at station. Can you imagine? Credit transfer, mobile money, yes. About 5 years now, I'm still under this umbrella, hustling myself all the way.
Prince, according to the mother, started operating as a mobile money vendor after senior high school over 3 years ago to save some money for his advanced studies. Prince, we are again told, is hardworking and favorite among his peers. The 22-year-old is currently on admission at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital after a motorcycle he was traveling on from KJB to Dodipapase had a front tire burst and somersaulted. The accident, which occurred 2 weeks ago, left Prince with a spine injury and a broken rib. He is paralyzed from waist to feet and unable to do anything for himself except the daily support from his mother. Prince requires emergency surgery that would cost him over 40,000 Ghana cedis. This has been the difficulty for the family over the past couple of weeks. The single mother says she does not have the financial strength to push through this difficult time. Prince's mother, Annie Deku, has been speaking to Joy News.
Prince,
my son Prince had a terrible accident last Wednesday, and I sent him to the Papase hospital, but we were referred to a bigger facility. I am required to pay 40,000 Ghana cedis, but I do not have that financial strength. Prince was the one looking after me until now. I am only appealing to the public for any support for my son to be healed. His auntie also has this to say.
The doctors are telling us that he has a problem with the spine and then he cannot move his body. He cannot move any part of the body. So we need an urgent surgery so that this thing can be corrected so he can go about his mobile money business. As a family are trying so hard, raising the money, so much money that we need help from the people of Ghana to come to support us. Prince is a hard-working guy who is taking care of a whole family. So we beg you Ghanaians, please come to our aid.
The family says it has raised just about half of the amount required to buy the items for the surgery. Prince could hardly make any audible speech as I tried to pick a word from him. Peter Sanu for Joy News.
The Moroccan government has reaffirmed its commitment to maintain a cordial diplomatic relationship with Ghana, with a promise to continue to improve on the humanitarian interventions it's been carrying out across the country over the years. The Moroccan ambassador to Ghana, Her Excellency Nana Addo, said this when she donated food items including rice and oil to hundreds of vulnerable Muslims at Kanda here in Accra. She said the gesture is to help the beneficiaries as they observe the last 10 days of Ramadan.
The Ramadan month is a very special period on the calendar of practicing Muslims, particularly during the last 10 days. It is a period dedicated to not only fasting, but giving alms to the vulnerable. The King Mohammed VI Foundation gesture has come at a time when Muslims the world over are observing the last 10 days of the 30-day fast. Her Excellency Nana Addo, who represented the King, promised to do more for the vulnerable across the country.
A generous donation for the Muslim community in the name of Mohammed VI Foundation of African Ulama. This foundation, which has been established in 2015 to promote the true pristine principles of Islam, that is tolerance and living together and fight of all terrorism and exclusion. So I am very happy to be here, and I want to commend the efforts and the hard work done by the Dr. Sheikh Ibrahim and all the leadership of the Ghana branch of the foundation.
In an interview with Joy News, retired diplomat Professor Osman Bari explained the foundation's long-term plan to empower the vulnerable, both Muslims and non-Muslims.
We have so many other programs, socially, economically, and educationally, and health-wise. We have so many programs. The branch has got so many programs. This program is spread over the years. Maybe it's going to take about 2-3 years. We'll be promoting that activities at the level of the branch so that it will affect so many segments of Ghanaian population, both Muslims and non-Muslims. We are going to empower people who are interested. When they come on our way, we'll make sure that we empower them in our own way so that they can stand on their own. We are going also to give chances for people who want to benefit from the scholarship award from the Moroccan government so that they can go there and strengthen their educational level and get something from there and come and impart it to their own people in this country.
It's impressive what you talked about training. What areas are you looking at to empower the people with?
Well, empower people economically and educationally. That's the most important thing. Economically, we want to establish a situation where we can get so many people to be trained in their own small field, that they can participate to enhance their own economic ability and sense, so that when they get this in when they got the command of this thing at their own level, they can make use of it, they can promote their own economic stand in the country.
Bail should not be used as punishment, neither should the police extort monies as a condition for the release of suspects who have been granted bail. That's according to private legal practitioner Martin Kwebu, who explains that such practices are illegal. Mr. Kwebu was speaking on the law Sunday about the conditions of bail. There has been public concern about public officers and police demanding cash before bail conditions are met. Mr. Kwebu says victims must report such officers so that the trend can be reversed. Here are excerpts from the law.
The judge is finished in 5 minutes. Accused admitted to bail in the sum of 100,000 with 2 sureties, 1 to be justified. You bring your land title. To type the court letter alone to Lands Commission can take you 3 days. You go to Lands Commission, if you don't, facilitate, you don't pay your way around, it won't get done. This one, we have to be very honest about it. If not, we'll not get solutions. Yeah, there's no way you can get a search out, no matter even what you pay, in one day. So typically, before you see 1 week, 2 weeks, even they themselves, officially, they'll tell you 2 weeks. And these 2 weeks, if you don't follow and pay, no, nobody gives it. Those are huge problems that we should be looking at.
What we have been talking about justification happens at the court.
That's correct.
And the police is not also supposed to ask you for money.
That's correct.
Before they are granting bail.
That's correct. But Sam, let's face the truth. You see, often when your liberties have been taken away, and then suddenly they are going to grant bail. Look, even me, let's say the truth. Sometimes, out of gratitude, we give something. But then the one that we should be deprecated is the one that the officer is extorting. Sometimes they take your client behind you and extort. Pay us this sum. Look, lawyer, it's my power to grant. It's not lawyer soon. Give me this money. If not, you are not going. And that is a big problem. Look, if we can't speak the truth, we are finished. I mean, we are lawyers. If we can't, it's a huge problem.
Ms. Akpebu blames the situation on the insufficient resources available to officers. He's calling on the IGP to ensure that police officers are resourced to cut down on a station.
They will complain. You see, even though I'm aware when this government came in, so far they've given over 400 vehicles. But the vehicles are not for going to inspect suspects. That's the thing. So maybe IGP should look at it. There should be some of the vehicles allocated because government is giving over 400 vehicles, right? Yeah, so maybe they should give it so that this thing should stop. Because look, all my hair is going since we started practice. It's always been there. Sometimes the suspect has to use his own car or his family members. As we build schools, let's also build a criminal justice system because, hey, nobody knows tomorrow.
We'll take a break. We'll bring you the second part of sports and business.
And welcome back to business. Over 1 billion Ghana cedis has been mobilized in taxes just under 1 year from activities of oil marketing companies and bulk oil distributors. There is more in this report.
The revenue assurance firm Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited, SML, currently monitors all the existing depots of the oil marketing firms and bulk oil firms in the country. Prior to the introduction of SML, there were some serious leakages and under-declaration of the volumes lifted by some oil marketing companies and bulk oil distribution companies. Since its deployment of the electronic metering system, EMS, in June last year, it has already saved the country more than 1 billion Ghana cedis. Christian Tetesoti is the managing director of Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited.
In terms of monetary value, the term is the additional revenue as compared to 2019 has been 1 billion and over. So our presence in our monitoring, I can say, has been very effective. What we can say is that the volumes that were being declared have suddenly gone up. And so one could infer that maybe in the past, the volumes that were being declared were not the right volumes. I'm just saying one could infer.
There are also plans to extend their services to other areas, including bonded warehouses. Christian Soti shares steps taken so far.
Do a feasibility and survey the warehouses and come out with a report as to how it could be done.
Joy Business Editor George Yafi has been speaking with the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority regarding the new taxes and ensuring taxing plans amid these introductions. Here's more.
Right. We have those waivers or suspensions that we have done. And for some of those ones, we indicated when it will start. For example, the VIT, the Verified Income Tax, and the tax stamp suspensions, it was indicated start at the end of the second, quarter. So automatically, once the process is done, we will have to pay for the first quarter, and then the other ones we have to do. Now, when it comes to the other tax that were introduced, once the appropriation has been done, it's for the date that has been given is when we will do it. For example, if I come to you and I have to pay the tax in let's say, if I'm able to come to you in May, but it's supposed to start from the 1st of April, then it is your duty to ensure that you have started the necessary accruals, so that when we come, you have to make sure that you are paying from the date when the tax became due. So automatically, that's how it's going to work. There are specific ones like what we had with the communication service tax, where there was issues about the people tweaking their system and therefore not being able to calculate. If anything like that happens, we will do administrative discussions, and then we will see what is the best way to approach.
Well, President General of the West African Nobles Forum, Nana Dr. P.H. Dankwa I, has urged corporate Ghana and governments not to be weary in provision of support to orphanages and the vulnerable in society. He made this when he donated items worth 50,000 cedis to the Bourgeoisie Children's Home in the Central Region. Speaking to Joy Business after donating food items and financial support worth 50,000 cedis to the Countryside Children's Welfare Home at Bourgeoisie in the Central Region, Nana Dr. P.H. Dankwa I remarked the urgent need for some government assistance to persons in need.
We want to encourage government to also just put something small aside for these young ones. Corporate world, individuals and corporate bodies. Corporate Ghana, seriously, even though things are hard, but if you do some of these things, the Lord will bless us and all our businesses will flourish.
The items included dresses and footwear, bags of rice and maize, packs of sanitary materials, gallons of cooking oil, among others. For the past 13 years, Nana Dr. Dankwa I saw it as a responsibility to support the Countryside Children's Welfare Home, which found it challenging to feed children at these uncertain times of COVID-19.
We have brought these items to this home just to encourage them, just to strengthen them, and just to bring some smiles in their faces in the midst of all these difficulties.
And that's how we end business.
And as I wrap up the bulletin tonight, my name is Aisha Brian. Many thanks for watching. For more news, log on to myjohnonline.com for all the updates of the developing stories. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.